This is one of the hardest things I've ever said on this channel because I used to be on the other side of this.
I'm not saying that lightly. I spent years inside the system. I put on the uniform, I stood at car windows. I asked those questions. I watched people hand everything over before they understood what kind of moment they were actually in. And I never told them what I am about to tell you. Nobody inside that system does. The system is not designed to teach citizens how to move through it. It is designed to move forward. And most people, sitting in that driver's seat with their heart already racing, are just trying to make the moment end as fast as possible. So they hand everything over. They answer everything asked. They comply before they understand. Before we go any further, if this channel has ever helped you know what to say when everything is moving too fast, hit subscribe right now. Because what comes next is the part most people never hear until it is too late to use it.
You are sitting in your car, lights behind you, hands on the wheel, and the officer says, license, registration, and insurance.
And you reach, immediately, without thinking, just like you were taught in driver's ed. Just like every piece of common sense you have ever been given about what to do when police pull you over. Because that is what feels right. That is what feels safe. That is what feels cooperative. But here is what I know from the other side of that window. That single reflex, that automatic movement before a single word, is exactly where the encounter shifts. Not always, but often enough that you need to understand what is actually happening before your hand moves toward the glove compartment. The license is not the problem. Handing it over is not automatically wrong. The sequence is the problem. What you do before you hand it over, or whether you even pause long enough to understand what you are in, that is what this entire video is about.
The license is not the problem. The sequence is the problem. What you do before you hand it over, that is everything.
Most people have never been told that the sequence matters more than the document. You hand over the license, identity confirmed, stop anchored to your name. You hand over the registration, vehicle and address connected. You answer the first casual question without thinking, and now the encounter has information you did not consciously decide to give. The interaction moved forward 3 steps before you took a single deliberate action. And at no point did you do anything wrong. But at no point were you directing what was happening either. That gap between automatic compliance and informed cooperation is exactly where I want to bring you today, because there is a difference. And once you understand what that difference looks like in real time, you will not move through these moments the same way again.
There is one question you must ask before anything leaves your hand. One sentence, calm, quiet, spoken once.
And I am going to give it to you directly. But the sentence alone is not enough. The tone matters. The stillness of your hands matters. The follow-through after the sentence matters. Knowing what to do when the officer pushes back matters most of all. This video is not one sentence, it is a system. By the time we are done, you will understand the 3 conditions that make these encounters dangerous. The 3 things you do before you say anything else. The 3 ways the encounter gets pushed out of your control. And the 3 mistakes that destroy every protection you thought you had. I will show you 2 real versions of the same moment, and I will also tell you what to do when you are already in the second one.
Most people think the danger is the officer. It is not. The danger is what you do in the first 10 seconds before you understand what you are actually in.
When an officer approaches your vehicle, you are not automatically in an investigative detention. You may be in a voluntary contact. You may be in a routine traffic stop with a defined reason. You may be in something that has not yet defined itself, moving toward a detention depending on what you say and do in the next 90 seconds. These categories carry different weights and different dynamics, and the vast majority of drivers have no idea which one they are in when the flashlight hits the window. That is not a failure of intelligence. It is a failure of information. Nobody teaches this. Nobody tells you, when they hand you your license at 16, that there is a difference between a lawful order and a casual request that sounds like an order. So you treat every request as a command to comply immediately, and the encounter moves in one direction only.
No recording, no clear reason stated before the documents change hands. Those 3 gaps, that is where the encounter stops being routine.
Those 3 gaps are the 3 conditions that make any encounter dangerous. Not because the officer is necessarily doing something wrong, but because of the structure the situation builds around you before you know it. The first condition is an undefined stop type. You do not know whether you are in a voluntary contact, an investigative detention, or an arrest situation before you hand over your identity documents. You hand over the license and identity is confirmed. You hand over the registration and the vehicle is anchored. The encounter has built a foundation before you said a single deliberate word. That foundation shapes everything that follows. And you built it from reflex before you understood what structure it was forming. The second condition is no documentation and no witness. The encounter moves verbally, it is fast. It is on the side of a road, or at a checkpoint, or in a parking lot at night, with no neutral third party and no clear record of exactly what was said and in what order. You remember it one way. The officer may remember it differently. And whatever happened becomes a matter of two competing accounts with nothing to anchor them. No witness, no recording. No documented sequence. The third condition is automatic physical compliance. Before you speak, before you ask a single question, your hand is already moving. You open the glove compartment. You answer the first 3 questions at conversational speed. Your body language signals consent you never consciously chose to give. I watched this from the other side of the window hundreds of times. The person wants the moment to end. They move fast to show cooperation. And in that movement, they give the encounter a direction they never voted for. Those are the 3 conditions. Now you need the 3 protective actions.
First, stillness. Hands on the wheel. No reaching. No movement. Until you know what kind of stop you are in.
This is not resistance. This is not obstruction. It is the most cooperative thing you can do, because movement without context creates confusion. Your hands are visible. You are not threatening. You are simply not moving until the situation gives you a reason to move. The second protective action is the phrase. One sentence, calm, before any document leaves your hand. Here it is exactly. Officer, before I hand anything over, am I being detained or am I free to go? Say it quietly. Say it once, hands on the wheel, eyes on the officer, respectfully, no attitude, no speech, just that one sentence. And I know what some of you are thinking. That is it? Yes. That is exactly why it works. It does not sound like a challenge. It sounds like a calm person asking a clarifying question before they cooperate, which is exactly what it is. It forces the encounter to define itself before it moves forward. Whatever the officer says next changes the shape of everything that follows. The power is not that the phrase is magical. It does not guarantee any specific outcome. The power is that it converts automatic movement into a stated reason. That is a different interaction than one that started in silence and reflex.
The power is not that the phrase is magic. The power is that it turns automatic movement into a stated reason. That is a different encounter.
The third protective action is the verbal record. After the stop, when you are safely away, you write down everything immediately, the exact words the officer used, the exact words you used, the badge number and car number if visible, the time, the location, the sequence of what was asked and answered, before emotion shapes the memory, before the gaps fill in with what seemed logical instead of what actually happened. Memory under stress degrades faster than most people believe. The version you remember an hour later is already slightly different. The version that matters, if you ever need it, is the factual account written while it is still cold and clear. Not later, as soon as it is safe to do so. Now you understand the conditions and the protective actions. But there are 3 ways the encounter will try to push that phrase right back out of your hands. These are the pressure tactics, and they work precisely because they do not look like pressure. They look like reason. The first is urgency framing. Just hand me your license. This will only take a second. That sentence makes your pause feel unreasonable. It frames a calm, clarifying question as if it were creating a problem. The urgency is designed to move you past the pause before you use it. The second is routine language used as a final answer. It's standard procedure. This is routine. These phrases sound official and final, but they are not specific reasons. Routine does not tell you whether you are detained or free. Vague language moves encounters forward without defining them. The third is impatience escalation. The officer's tone shifts slightly, just enough for you to read irritation. And when you read irritation as danger, your instinct is to cooperate faster to make the discomfort go away. You abandon the phrase. Your discomfort with their discomfort became the mechanism that moved the encounter forward. These are not necessarily deliberate tactics. Sometimes the encounter just moves fast. The point is that you recognize the pattern so you can stay steady inside it.
When the encounter tries to rush you, that is exactly the moment to slow down. Not by arguing, by staying still and staying clear.
Now let me give you the decision tree. Every branch so you know exactly where to go depending on what happens after the phrase. If the officer gives a clear, specific reason, you crossed the center line, your registration is expired, a brake light is out. That is a defined stop. You cooperate fully, you move slowly. You announce movements. My registration is in the glove compartment. May I reach for it? You do not keep arguing. Work inside that definition calmly and completely. If the officer gives a vague answer, routine, procedure, don't make this difficult. You use the follow-up phrase. Once, calmly, I understand, officer. I am not trying to make this difficult. I am asking for the specific reason so I can cooperate correctly. Once, not twice. If the officer becomes irritated after the follow-up, you say, I'm not making this difficult, officer. I want to hand you everything correctly. I just want to understand what's happening so I can help you do your job. Then you comply with any lawful, clearly stated order. You prioritize safety, you preserve the record, not the argument. If you care about someone who drives alone at night, share this channel with them, because this only works before the moment happens.
You are not refusing. You are asking for clarity. If a lawful order is clear, your priority is safety and calm compliance every time.
If the officer clearly states you are being detained with a specific reason, you comply. You do not physically resist. If a search is attempted and you have not consented, you state it quietly once. I do not consent to a search, but I will not interfere. Say it once. Let your physical compliance and your verbal non-consent stand as two separate things on the record. The distinction matters. You are not refusing anything lawful. You are cooperating with your body while preserving your position with your words. Those are not contradictions. They are two separate tracks that can both be true at the same time, and the legal record needs both of them clearly visible.
3 mistakes are about to destroy everything you just learned. Let me show you each one, because they happen to careful people.
Before we get to the mistakes, let me be clear about what is at stake. You have the phrase. You have the follow-up. You have the decision tree. You have done everything right. And then one small choice, one nervous reflex in the middle of the conversation unravels the entire structure. That is what the 3 mistakes do, not through ignorance. Through the exact kind of normal human behavior that stress produces, now the 3 mistakes. Every one of them is something a normal person does under stress without realizing what it costs. The first mistake is asking the question while already reaching. Your hand moves toward the glove compartment while your mouth says, "Am I being detained?" The body says yes while the voice says pause. The physical compliance cancels the verbal record. The officer sees movement. The encounter moves forward. The question becomes background noise. If you're going to ask, you have to be completely still. Hands on the wheel. No movement. The stillness and the question are one unit. One without the other does not work. The second mistake is over-explaining after the phrase. The question has been asked. The officer responds. And then you add, "Because I heard online that," or "I know my rights and according to." In 10 seconds, a calm clarification request has become a confrontation. After the phrase, you stop. You wait in silence. You let the officer respond. No lecture, no citation. No demonstration of how much you know. The phrase works because it is brief and calm. Everything you add after it works against it. The third mistake is abandoning the phrase after one vague response. The officer says it's routine and you hand over the license. The pressure tactic worked. This is the most common mistake. The phrase only creates a record if you hold it through one follow-up. One vague answer is not the end of the question. It is exactly when the follow-up phrase becomes necessary.
The words can be right, and the moment can still go wrong. Your tone, your stillness, and your silence after the phrase are part of the system too.
Let me show you 2 versions of the same moment. The difference is not dramatic. It lives in a few seconds and a few words. First version, it is night. You are on a 2-lane road, 15 minutes from home. Patrol lights appear behind you. You pull over. Both hands on the wheel. Flashlight through the window. License, registration, and insurance. You do not reach. Quietly, "Officer, before I hand anything over, am I being detained or am I free to go?" A pause. The officer says, "You were driving 32 in a 25. I'm going to need your documents." "Thank you. My registration is in the glove compartment. May I reach for it?" Yes, you reach slowly. You hand everything over. You add nothing extra. The encounter proceeds with both of you knowing exactly what kind of stop it is. Defined. Clear. The record exists in what was said out loud, in sequence before the documents changed hands. Second version. You are at a checkpoint, cones in the road, officer at the window before you have processed what is happening. You hand over the license automatically. Reflex. The officer hands it back. Where are you coming from tonight? Anyone else in the car? You answer the first question without thinking, and the second, 3 steps forward. Then mind if I take a look in the back? You pause, you remember. I want to cooperate correctly. Can you tell me what specifically you need from me right now? Just routine, quietly. I don't consent to a search, but I won't interfere. You do not argue. You do not reach for anything. You state your position clearly once. The encounter ends or escalates. Either way, your position is now part of what happened. That record matters. But here is what most people do not expect from this video. I saved it for here because most people think they are watching a video about prevention. They are not. Not entirely.
What if it is already too late? What if you already handed it over? What if you already said yes? That is exactly what I need to tell you now.
What if you already handed the license before you thought to ask? What if you already answered 3 casual questions and 1 led somewhere unexpected? What if you said, sure, go ahead when asked about the back seat, because the moment felt like it required a yes and you did not know there was another answer? Do not panic. That is the most important instruction in this section. Panic creates unpredictable movement. Unpredictable movement in a tense situation creates new problems entirely separate from whatever the original stop was about. Do not reach for anything. Do not grab anything back. Do not start explaining what you meant. Do not invent a story. Do not escalate. Here is what you do. Stay still. Stay calm. And if a search is being conducted and you have not formally consented, say this once quietly. Officer, I want to note that I did not formally consent to a search. I want to cooperate, but I want that on the record. Do not argue about what already happened. You cannot undo the first 2 minutes. State where you are right now, clearly on the record, and let that stand. After the stop, when you are safe, write everything down immediately, the exact words used, the sequence, what was asked first, what you said, what happened next, the badge number, if visible, the time, the location, how long it lasted. Write it before you talk to anyone, before emotion shapes the memory. The version that matters is the one you write while it is still clear. That record is not about revenge. It is about having an accurate account if you ever need one. Legal help, if necessary, begins with what you can document. Preserve it.
You are not trying to win on the street. You are making sure the record reflects what you agreed to and what you did not.
Now let me say something clearly before we finish, because I do not want this video misunderstood. Knowing what to ask before you hand over your documents is not disrespect. It is informed cooperation. An officer with a clear, lawful reason has nothing to lose from a calm question. A driver who understands what kind of stop they are in is easier to work with, not harder. Rights awareness, used correctly, stabilizes encounters. Panic and blind compliance destabilize them. Let me give you the complete system one final time. The core phrase, officer, before I hand anything over, am I being detained or am I free to go? Once, quietly. Hands on the wheel, before any document leaves your hand. Clear reason, cooperate fully, move slowly, announce movements, do not argue. Vague answer, I understand. I am not trying to make this difficult, I am asking for the specific reason so I can cooperate correctly. Once. Officer irritated, do not mirror emotion, prioritize safety, comply with lawful orders, preserve the memory. 3 mistakes. Asking while reaching, over-explaining after the phrase, abandoning the phrase after one vague response. Already too late, stay still, state your position quietly, do not escalate, write everything down as soon as it is safe. If you know someone who drives alone at night and would not know what kind of stop they are in, send them this video now. Not later, this only helps before the moment. Tell me in the comments, has an officer ever given you a vague reason for a stop and you did not know what to say? Write what happened after that first question. Those details matter. And if a stop already went further than you expected, write what you said, because you are not alone. Someone watching right now needs to know they are not either. I recorded this because I know what I was looking for when I stood at that window with the flashlight and the uniform. I watched people hand over more than they had to, not because they were forced, but because they did not know the sequence could be different. The phrase is not designed to help you win an argument. It is designed to help you keep control of your voice, your record, and your safety in the one moment where panic makes most people give all 3 away without realizing it was a choice. That is why I had to say it.